You can do a lot using LEB color mode. Now, if you watched the tutorial just a couple of weeks ago on LEB sharpening, you're familiar with the LEB color mode, and it's not just sharpening that you can do. If you didn't watch the video and you're interested in the sharpening bit, go back and watch that. But a short rundown of LEB color mode is that it's a color mode that instead of RGB, which is separated in reds, greens, and blues, this is built up by lightness in the A and the B channel. So A and B contains all the color. It's basically a 4-color channel mode, and the L is just the lightness. So what this gives us, if I go ahead and go to image, come down to mode, and switch to LEB color, I can see in my channels panel that I've got the full LEB composite, I've got lightness, and then I have A and B, which is the color of my image. In terms of photo editing, what I can do here is if I go and add an adjustment layer here, and if I add a curves adjustment, which pops up my adjustment panel here, I can affect the lightness with the curve, I can affect the A and the B channel. So if I go ahead here and modify, you'll see I do some dramatic changes to this because I am modifying the lightness itself. So it's very easy to add some contrast to this. You can add some extreme contrast with just a little change here on the curves. So I'm just gonna add some more extreme contrast than before. You'll see here's the before, here's the after of that contrast enhancement. And if I go ahead and go over to the A channel here, we'll get a new curve. And if I drag the top one here far to the left, you'll see that this is a magenta and that the bottom is green kind of cast here. It's a cross between blue and green. So you have those two in the A channel, and in the B channel you've got the yellow on top as well as the very blue at the bottom. So with this, you can go ahead and using this grid, you can go and modify and saturate with this. So you don't want to be pushing mid-level because it's going to be very hard for you to actually go back in here. So I'm going to remove that point. But what I like to do here is increase the kind of the saturation here up top. So if I go and drag, let's say I do 2 squares in here for this, for the top, and then I do 2 squares in for the bottom. Now I did get a much more saturated sky. And if I do the same with the B channel, so I go 2 squares in, and I do 2 squares in at the bottom, you see I've just gotten a very much saturated photo. More blues and more magentas in the sky. So if this is too much, you can always go down to 1. And I'd actually save this 1 and 2 as a preset here in the curves. You can easily go back and watch the changes here because this is much more realistic. So I've got the change that I made. I've got the contrast change, and if you look at this separately, here's the colors change, which is now more subtle, but it's still there and it's a good change. So if you do the change in the A and B with the color, and then you can also do the change in the curves, bringing out some more contrast in the entire scene that you've taken. So this is doing it in LEB color mode. It's a very good change. It's very easy to do, and it just requires a curves adjustment layer and working the different channels.